I've bought a few budget-friendly telescopes over the years, and most of the time the excitement fades fast when the optics turn out softer than promised, the mount wobbles, and you end up spending extra money on adapters just to get a decent view. That regret curve is why I was skeptical when I first saw the HandyDob6, a 6-inch Dobsonian that's marketed as ultralight and travel-ready. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The question I kept asking myself was simple: does this compact Dobsonian actually give you the night ski performance you expect, or is it another lightweight gimmick that will let you down once you're out of the box? The first thing I noticed, even before setting it up, was the way the telescope folds down into a compact package. The 3D-printed carbon fiber reinforced tube feels surprisingly sturdy for a system that weighs just a few pounds, and the steel tripod that comes with the July 2026 configuration adds a solid base without turning the whole thing into a wall-off metal. For anyone who lives in an apartment, drives to a dark site on weekends, or just wants to slip the scope into a car trunk, that modularity is a real advantage. It's not just small, it's engineered to be carried like a DSLR, which means you can actually bring it to a county park and still have enough room for a blanket, a coffee thermos, and a couple of friends. When I set it up at a local observatory field, the alignment process was almost instinctive. The Dobsonian base glides smoothly in both altitude and azimuth, and the manual tracking feels buttery, not stiff. That smooth motion is a direct result of the well-balanced weight distribution between the tube and the base. I spent about 5 minutes getting the scope level, inserting a 1.25-inch eyepiece, and then I was looking at the moon with a crisp, bright edge that reminded me why I got into astronomy in the first place. The 150mm, 6-inch, primary mirror paired with a 750mm focal length gives a respectable f/5 ratio. So even at low power you get a wide field that's perfect for lunar craters or sweeping across the Orion Nebula. One of the practical strengths of the HandyDob6 is the built-in light shroud. It's a thin, matte sleeve that slides over the tube, reducing stray light and glare when you're observing from a site with moderate sky glow. In my experience, that shroud made a noticeable difference on a night when the moon was only a thin crescent but city lights were still leaking into the eyepiece. The result was a darker background and more contrast on faint nebular details. That's a subtle feature that many cheap Dobsonians skip, and it shows the designers were thinking about real observing conditions, not just the look good in the catalog factor. The telescope also comes ready for Pushto upgrades. The mounting points are engineered so you can later attach the Pushto air system without drilling or major modifications. If you ever decide you want motorized tracking for longer exposures or astrophotography, you won't have to start from scratch. Right now, the HandyDob6 is a manual instrument, which keeps the price down and the learning curve gentle. For beginners who want to master the basics of star hopping and manual tracking, that's actually a plus. You're forced to understand the sky instead of relying on a motor. Now, no telescope is perfect, and the HandyDob6 has a few trade-offs that matter once you're beyond the first night of excitement. The focuser is a 1.25-inch type, which means you can't directly attach the larger 2-inch filters that many deep sky observers prefer for narrowband imaging or light pollution mitigation. The manufacturer does say the system supports 2-inch filters, but you'd need an adapter that adds a little bulk to the front of the tube, and that can slightly offset the balance you just spent time fine-tuning. If you're the kind of observer who already owns a collection of 2-inch filters, you'll have to weigh that extra step against the convenience of a lighter scope. Another point to consider is the limited aperture when compared to larger, more permanent Dobsonians. A 6-inch mirror will deliver beautiful lunar and planetary views, and it can pull out some nebular structure on bright, extended objects, but it won't rival a 10-inch model on faint deep sky targets. If you're hoping to capture the faint filaments of the Horsehead Nebula or the intricate arms of distant galaxies, you'll quickly feel the limits of the 150mm mirror. That's not a flaw so much as a realistic expectation setting. The HandyDob6 shines when you want quick, high-impact views without hauling a massive tube, but it's not a substitute for a dedicated deep sky instrument. Who should buy the HandyDob6? If you are a beginner who wants a portable, easy-to-use Dobsonian that won't dominate your garage, this is a solid entry point. It's also an excellent choice for seasoned observers who travel to dark sites and need a second telescope that fits in a carry-on. The quick assembly, smooth manual tracking, and the built-in light shroud make it a reliable companion for spontaneous backyard sessions.